Welcome to Dude Date. We're minus a dude because Colby's in Florida. You can look at his review of Batman vs. Superman above. I don't know that we agree too much. Anyway, we just saw
Batman vs. Superman.
What'd you think, dude?
If I had to boil it down to one or two statements, I would say that Zack Snyder and co. really didn't learn from their past mistakes from Man of Steel. It falters in a lot of the same ways. It doesn't have a consistent tone and is very bloated.
Yeah, I think Zack Snyder sort of made Batman not fun again.
Both kind of on the negative side. Why don't we try and find some highlights? What did you like about the movie?
Highlights? Gal Gadot. Oh my god. A, she's banging. B, she's banging. C, I thought she was a really good Wonder Woman. Gal Gadot was very seductive, and I was into it in this movie.
Weird thing, I liked her costume in the beginning when she was at the ball or whatever. I thought it was very suggestive of Wonder Woman without being too obvious. And I think she, in the final fight scene, she was maybe the most interesting fighter, I guess, or like what they did with her physically was the most interesting.
So, I mean, I guess we have to say this. Spoilers! There's spoilers all over this. Homegirl got knocked down more than anybody, but she just kept getting up, smiling, and being like, no, it's my job to just stop this horrible monster. Jeremy Irons, I thought he really worked with it, but also Alfred really wasn't a thing in this. Like, he wasn't the Michael Caine in the Dark Knight Trilogy. But I thought he was still a good Alfred. Him and Ben Affleck had a good rapport with each other. And what worked? That Batman fight in the little warehouse where he's fighting all the thugs by himself. That was probably one of the best Batman fights I've ever seen on a movie.
Well, for me, I disagree with all your last two statements, but I will say that I also enjoyed Wonder Woman throughout most of the movie. I enjoyed Lawrence Fishburne. He was my favorite part of the movie, I think.
As did I.
Did his best J. Jonah Jameson impression, and it worked really well. I think there's a very, very short moment where Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman get to interact in between the battle and towards the end, and I thought that really worked well, and it did not fit tonally with the rest of the movie, but it was good to see them actually interacting. And the final thing that I really liked was, again, not during the big battle scenes, but I think visually the movie looked pretty good.
Yeah.
In every other aspect. I think some of the battles, you get into that CGI goop, and there was some there were some directing decisions or like camera placement decisions that I really didn't like, but visually I think overall, outside of the big battles, the movie looked pretty good. Is there anything you like specifically want to point out? Maybe your least favorite thing of the whole movie?
There was like 5 8-year-olds in the theater with me, and they did not enjoy it. And I felt kind of bad. Not like personally. I was just like, oh man. Like, if those 8-year-olds went and saw Captain America #1, they would have had fun. If they saw the Avengers #1 or Iron Man #1, they would have had fun, but they didn't because they went to the wrong movie.
Okay, 8-year-olds is a little too
Sure.
But
But
even like if you're like a 13-year-old, you would love the Dark Knight movies, and for different reasons. You can love both Marvel and Dark Knight series, but you just like them for different reasons. And this one doesn't reach a point where it's likable, especially for younger kids.
I feel like the dark and gritty aspect of the Dark Knight trilogy has been blown out of proportion, and the real like savior and moneymaker of the Dark Knight trilogy was the like grounded in realness. We understood why Batman was doing what he was doing. We understood how his armor was made. We understood Alfred. We got it all. And this is like this brooding, just terrible thing that is just like sad for no reason.
If I had to focus on one negative thing, it's going to be all about the inconsistencies with Batman's character.
Mm-hmm.
Because his, like, to a fault and to, like, a punchline, his number one characteristic is that he doesn't kill anyone. And that's what all of his villains always make fun of him for. And there's just no way you can get around him just demolishing people in this movie.
He kills like 50 people in this movie.
And what makes it even worse is the very beginning of the movie sets his whole arc up. It starts it off by him being pissed at Superman because he kills a bunch of people, and then he just goes through and just kills a bunch of people. It's stupid. There's one point in the chase where he's in his Batmobile. He knocks over a car with some villains in it. He grapples onto that thing, drags it 400 feet, and then uses it as like a hammer on top of another car. And there's people in it.
Everybody dies is the punchline. It's
ridiculous. And the fight scene that Nick liked and I did not.
Oh,
you couldn't get in my mind, all I was thinking is like, that guy's dead, that guy's dead, the guy's definitely dead. It's just crazy. It was just...
Okay. In my defense, whether they're dead or not, that was one of the most badass Batman sequences I've ever seen. So, like, he's old. He's got the gray uniform.
I'll give you the point that his suit looks cool.
His suit looks really cool.
It falls into the like, fight scene where, like, the villains are just waiting their turn to go and fight him, which is brutal.
Very much so.
Like, if you're comparing it to the Dark Knight movies, those fight scenes, for the most part, follow, like...
how fights happen?
A logistic, like, mentally, you can understand how each progression happens, and like, okay, that makes sense. He's going and he fights this guy real quick, and then these people are doing something that makes sense. And this, it just feels like kind of a kung fu fight scene where people are like waiting their turn to get beat up by Batman.
And it was dope because Batman's getting knocked down. Batman got a fucking knife to the chest, and Batman says,
and he gives it knife
"Fuck you!"
back.
Pulls it out. Puts it right back in him, which I don't think Batman would do. The branding was like a little bit weird, but that fight scene alone, that standalone scene, was like the shining star of the movie and made me like, kinda want to see what Ben Affleck's gonna do with Batman. What'd you think about the plot of the movie, though? Like, I thought... So, there's a point where Lex Luthor basically does the classic supervillain thing, and he unveils his plan to Superman, because Superman is a big part of his plan. Again, spoilers, but he explains why it is Batman versus Superman. And I kind of thought it worked. Which I was surprised at. After, like... 2 hours of movie, you finally see the big picture, and you see all those puzzle pieces work together, and I thought it kind of worked a little bit.
From what I've read of about the Dark Knight trilogy, the third movie was supposed to have Joker in it, and if you watch the movie, it makes sense that he isn't defeated, and he can potentially like plot another scheme that's a little bit bigger than what he was planning in the second movie. I feel like this movie would have been better.
What would that scheme have been? Oh my god.
Who knows? But
anyway,
obviously Heath Ledger dying derailed that. But I feel like this movie could have ended after the Batman-Superman fight with Lex Luthor still like scheming, and it would have ended in such a better spot. Like, the whole Doomsday thing could have been the next movie, and it would have just been more interesting and didn't have to feel like you're watching an hour and 15 minutes of people fighting nonsense fight in the deserted city so that they can get away with just throwing people through buildings again.
I liked it more than you, apparently.
If I had to rate it, I would say...
None of us liked it as much as Colby.
Okay, I just caveat, if we're doing out of 10, my rating systems are pretty...
That's what Colby was using above, like, we...
If I say it's a 7, I really like it. If I say it's a 3 or 4, I really didn't like it. So I'm going to say probably like a 4. But that's not saying it's close to decent.
I would probably give it like a 5 out of 10, yeah.
Well, with that, it's kind of our thoughts with Batman and Superman. Can't wait to see Colby face to face.
Yeah, Colby fucking loved it, apparently. Anyway, yeah, we fucking hated it. And, no. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I feel like we're both like really on the fence about it.
When I was watching it, I was like, both annoyed and thinking it was fine.
I shook my head the whole
Just because
time.
it was the same. It's the same. It's like watching Man of Steel again. Like,
Yeah.
that was fine,
Yeah.
and there's so many problems with it I don't like, but it was just like, some parts were cool.
All right, so
That should be the poster tagline. Some stuff is cool in this movie.
Some stuff is cool in this movie.